Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And unfortunately, my colleague from Virginia is not here. And had I had 10 minutes to raise an issue, I would have asked you guys. A previous Democratic administration, the Obama administration, wouldn't give the Ukrainians javelins because they were scared about sparking a war with Putin. The next administration, the Trump administration, immediately gave javelins. Previous Democratic administration, the Obama administration, declared a red line in Syria, then watched everybody walk over it, invited the Russians into the Middle East for the first time in decades. And the next administration declared a red line in Syria with Russian proxies saying if they get any closer to our special forces, we will destroy them. And then we destroyed them, hundreds of them, killed them. So there's a lot of comparisons here. I just want my colleague to know, but I don't have 10 minutes. I'm going to turn to another topic that is all about American strategy, and that's energy. I'm glad to see Senator Manchin, Senator Mullen have raised this.
You gonna go? You gonna come back?
You know, a very memorable meeting I had many years ago with our former chairman here, Senator McCain, and a Russian dissident, very brave Russian dissident who's now in jail, Vladimir Karamurza. I had asked him, what more can we do to undermine the Putin regime? What more can we do to go after Putin and the oligarchs? He said, it's easy, Senator. Number one thing you can do as a country is produce more American energy. Number one. Do you agree with that, Dr. Hill, Mr. Zackheim? And if you can keep your answers short, I have a bunch of questions. American energy as a really important tool of American power to deal with great powers like Russia and China.
Well, I would say yes, writ large, together with our allies and rethinking also our energy posture, so absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Lin, someone else who's very scared of American energy dominance is Xi Jinping. You read the reporting, it makes him very nervous. I was just in the Middle East, 60% of China's oil and gas goes through the Straits of Hormuz. If we're in a conflict with them, we could shut that down in 10 minutes. Is American energy dominance important for us? All the above, oil, gas, renewables, whatever, but certainly oil and gas. Is that important for our competition with China? And is that something we should emphasize?
Absolutely, and China imports about 70% of its oil, so it is a huge dependency that China needs to work around.
And so they're scared when they look at American energy dominance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let me ask another question. We haven't done American energy dominance. We haven't produced more American energy. To the contrary, when this administration came into office, they did three things. They immediately started shutting down the production of American energy. They immediately started shutting down American energy infrastructure. They immediately started pressuring American financial institutions not to invest in American energy. And then when the prices of energy went up on working families, they went overseas. President bended knee to the king of Saudi Arabia, begging for more oil, lifting sanctions on Venezuela, a terrorist regime, to get more oil, and they make it harder to produce American energy here. Let me ask you this question. Assume that there was a project in America, $9 billion investment, 200,000 barrels a day, 2,500 jobs to build it, 75% of which are union, lowest greenhouse gas emissions in the world, highest environmental standards in the world of any energy project. From a national security perspective, if that was in front of you right now, would you say approve it, or would you say, no, keep begging from Saudi Arabia and Venezuela? What would you do, Dr. Lin? Would you approve a project like that?
I would approve it, but I would also continue to strengthen our relations with Saudi and many of our
I agree,
partners.
I agree, 100%. But not Venezuela, right?
No, not Venezuela.
Yeah, you don't need to go begging from them. Dr. Hill, would you approve a project like that? From a national security perspective, that's all
From a
I'm asking.
national security perspective, absolutely, but we also need to look at the domestic versus the export potential.
Correct.
Because I think, what we've got, what we're talking about here is how much energy that the United States can also export.
Yeah,
and our
100%.
Own,
but 200,000
independence.
barrels a day, that gives us muscle, right? From
Certainly-
America.
Certainly
American
in the
workers.
short to medium term, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Zackheim, what about you?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Now, final question. Assume we had a senior administration official who goes to Asia, who cautions our allies in Asia not to purchase clean-burning American LNG, and then tells these same Asian allies, don't help some of the other countries, ASEAN countries, for example, transition from coal to gas, make them transition from coal to wind turbines. Would that be smart American foreign policy, diplomatic policy as it relates to Asia and building our alliances? Does that make sense to any of you?
There is one element, and
Well, just
my
real quick,
colleague just
I'm
said-
out of time, but
No, but the point is that China is making huge inroads on renewables and on green energy, including on constructing turbines. So it wouldn't necessarily be a wrong thing to do if we can also have the technology, as Dr. Lin has said.
China's building a coal plant a week, and in ASEAN, they want to build more coal plants. We have I'm naming John Kerry, if you haven't noticed. Does that make sense for John Kerry to go to Asia and warn our allies not to buy American LNG and tell the ASEAN countries you can't go from coal to gas, you got to go from coal to windmill, which no industrialized country has ever done? Dr. Lim, does that make any sense?
So I think one of the concerns that countries, particularly in ASEAN, but also in the Pacific Island, have is about climate change and how that affects their national security. So what I don't know is what Secretary Kerry was thinking behind that. But I think from a U.S. perspective, it makes sense to encourage our allies and partners to buy American.
To buy American LNG. Dr. Zackheim,
I associate with Dr. Lin.
thank you.